I stood there in my black suit, still numb with grief, as the funeral reception continued around me. Mom and Dad gone in an instant, a patch of black ice, a guardrail, and suddenly 2 empty chairs at every future family gathering. That was when Amanda cornered me by the refreshment table, her eyes cold despite the tears she had dramatically displayed during the service. "Cedric, we need to talk about the will," she hissed, gripping my arm. "I need you to sign over your share. I deserve it more after everything." Her fingernails dug into my sleeve as the family lawyer approached us with a solemn nod. I could see something in his expression that made Amanda pause. Before you join me on this painful journey, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to deal with family drama at the worst possible moment. The Minneapolis winter had never felt colder than the day we buried my parents. James and Eleanor Miller had been fixtures in our community for over 30 years, their hardware store on Henley Street, a gathering place as much as a business. Dad knew every contractor in 3 counties by name, and Mom could find the right specialized screw or fitting when even Dad was stumped. They built that place from nothing, working 7 days a week when I was little, eventually growing it into a thriving local business worth well over $1 million. Our family had been middle class, comfortable, never rich, but never wanting. The modest 2-story colonial in the suburbs, the small cabin on Lake Minnetonka that Dad had gradually renovated over 2 decades, and the business these represented their entire life's work. Nothing flashy, just solid and dependable, just like them. There were 3 of us kids, Amanda at 35, me at 32, and Tyler at 28, who now lived in Germany, working for a tech company. We had grown up in that hardware store, but our relationships with it and our parents had taken very different paths. From the time we were young, Amanda had always demanded the spotlight. While I was stocking shelves after school, she was insisting on expensive dance lessons, and later a costly private university education that drained my parents' savings. Tyler had been too young to help much before heading off to college himself, but at least he had worked summers and holidays at the store. Amanda never did. Not one day. "The store is boring," she would say. "I am meant for bigger things." Those bigger things apparently included a string of failed business ventures, a boutique that closed after 8 months, a wellness coaching practice that never attracted clients, and most recently a social media consulting agency that existed mainly on business cards and in her imagination. Each failure came with frantic calls to our parents, asking for loans that were never repaid. Meanwhile, I had worked my way through the state university, coming home weekends to help at the store. After graduation, when Dad first showed signs of the heart trouble that would plague his final years, I postponed my plans to work in architectural design and came back to help run things. What was supposed to be 6 months turned into 5 years, during which I modernized their inventory system, built their first real website, and expanded their contractor services division. "You are such a good son," Mom would say, patting my hand across the dinner table we still shared 3 nights a week. "We are so lucky to have you." But being the good son had cost me. A serious relationship ended when my girlfriend grew tired of coming second to family obligations. My own savings remained modest, because I never asked for more than a basic salary, knowing the business supported my parents' retirement. At 32, I was living in the apartment above my parents' garage, my architecture dreams gathering dust along with my drafting table. Not that I regretted it. I treasured those final years with them, the Sunday drives with Dad where he told stories of his youth, the quiet evenings helping Mom with her crossword puzzles. I drove them to medical appointments, managed their medications, and advocated for them with specialists. When they were both briefly hospitalized with COVID 2 years back, I slept in a hospital chair for a week. Where was Amanda during all this, sending occasional texts, asking if they were better yet? She lived just 40 minutes away. The call about the accident came on a Tuesday morning. Black ice on Highway 12, their car spinning into the path of a delivery truck. Dad was killed instantly. Mom survived for 6 hours in the ICU, never regaining consciousness. I was there holding her hand. Amanda arrived 20 minutes after Mom was gone already, asking about the will between theatrical sobs. The funeral service was a blur of faces and condolences. The pastor spoke about lives well lived and community service. The store's longtime employees shared stories that made people laugh through tears. Amanda gave a performance worthy of an Oscar nomination, collapsing into her husband Greg's arms at perfectly timed intervals. I just felt hollow, my grief too deep for such public displays. I kept thinking about the half-finished shelving unit Dad and I had been building for Mom's collection of antique teapots. Who would help me finish it now? As the reception began in the church basement, I found a quiet corner needing a moment alone. That was when Amanda cornered me, her face instantly transforming from grieving daughter to calculating predator. "We need to settle this now," she said, voice low but intense. "Before the will reading tomorrow, I want you to agree to sign over most of your share to me." I stared at her, unable to process what I was hearing. "Amanda, our parents just died. Is this really? Do not give me that holier-than-thou routine," she cut me off. "We both know they probably left you the lion's share because you played the devoted son. But my family has expenses you cannot even imagine. My house is underwater. Greg's business is struggling and the kids need college funds. I have not even thought about the will," I said honestly, "and this is hardly the time or place." "This is exactly the time," she pressed, stepping closer. "I have debts, Cedric. Serious debts. You live in a garage apartment, for God's sake. What do you even need money for? I have real responsibilities." I felt my throat tighten. "The responsibility of showing up when Mom and Dad needed you. That kind of responsibility." Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "I had my own life to manage. You chose to stay and play martyr. Do not expect to cash in now." "Cash in? On what years? Of helping them while you disappeared? On putting my life on hold while you chased one failed dream after another?" Amanda's perfectly made-up face hardened. "I will contest the will if I have to. I will tell everyone how you manipulated them in their final years, isolated them from me, poisoned them against their own daughter." The accusation was so ludicrous, I almost laughed. "Are you hearing yourself? Everyone knows that is not true. Do they? People believe what they want to believe, and I can be very convincing." She straightened her black designer dress, no doubt charged to a maxed-out credit card. "Think about it, Cedric. A simple signature from you avoids a messy public fight that would break Mom and Dad's hearts if they were here to see it." Before I could respond, Maxwell Bennett, my parents' attorney of 20 years, approached us with a somber nod. "If I could have a word with both of you. There are some arrangements for tomorrow's reading we should discuss." Amanda immediately switched back to grieving daughter mode, dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue. But I had seen the real Amanda, the one our parents had protected me from seeing clearly for years, the one who would use even their funeral to try to manipulate and control. And for the first time I wondered if I should stop being the peacekeeper the family had always expected me to be. The next morning we gathered in the wood-paneled conference room of Bennett Legal Services. Amanda arrived with Greg, both dressed immaculately in designer morning attire. Tyler had flown in overnight from Berlin, jet-lagged and disoriented but present. A few aunts and uncles sat quietly along one wall, while my parents' closest friends, the Hendersons, occupied another corner. Amanda positioned herself at the head of the table as if she were already in charge of the proceedings. Her confidence was palpable, and occasionally she would give me smug looks that clearly said, "I will win this," like I always do. Maxwell Bennett entered, carrying a thick folder, his assistant, bringing a box of documents behind him. He had been my parents' trusted advisor through business expansions, property purchases, and careful estate planning. A man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, he had always treated me with respect when I accompanied my parents to meetings about the business. "Before we begin," Bennett said, "I want to express my personal condolences. James and Eleanor were not just clients, but dear friends. Their loss is felt deeply by many in this community." Amanda nodded dramatically, producing fresh tears on cue. "They would want us to honor their wishes and move forward as a family," she said, her voice catching theatrically. Bennett regarded her with an unreadable expression before continuing. "The will I am about to read was updated just 8 months ago, with some additional codicils added 3 months ago. James and Eleanor were very thoughtful and specific about their wishes." As Bennett organized his papers, Amanda leaned toward me. "Last chance," she whispered. "Agree to my terms now, or things will get ugly." "Just let the man read the will," I replied, my patience wearing thin. Bennett began with the standard legal preamble, then moved to specific bequests, $5,000, to each of 3 charities, $10,000, to their church, family photographs, and specific heirloom items to various relatives. Then came the substantial assets. The family home appraised at $420,000. The lake cabin worth $350,000. Various investment and retirement accounts totaling just over $500,000. And, finally, the hardware store business with its building inventory and goodwill, conservatively valued at $1.5 million. As the numbers added up, I could see Amanda's eyes gleaming with calculation. She reached for Greg's hand under the table, squeezing it in anticipation. I felt nothing but sadness. Each asset a reminder of my parents' absent presence. The lake cabin, where Dad had taught me to fish. The kitchen table where Mom rolled out Christmas cookie dough. The store where both had greeted customers by name for decades. During a brief break, while Bennett consulted some additional paperwork, Amanda cornered me by the water cooler, Greg hovering at her side like an expensive suited bodyguard. "We need to talk settlement," she said briskly. "I am thinking 70-30 split in my favor would avoid unnecessary drama." 70-30, I repeated incredulously. Based on what possible justification? Based on the fact that I have actual financial needs while you live like a college student. Based on the fact that I have children to provide for. Based on the fact that I am prepared to make things very uncomfortable if you refuse. Greg nodded along his square jaw, set firmly. Amanda has already consulted with a separate attorney about contesting options. I felt a wave of exhaustion. This is exactly why Mom and Dad always gave in to you, Amanda. You wear people down. Her eyes flashed dangerously. I know things, Cedric. Things about Dad's business dealings in the early days that would not look good if they came to light. I know about the zoning variance he got through his friendship with Commissioner Wilson. The manipulation was so transparent it almost seemed desperate. Are you actually threatening to damage Dad's reputation to get more money? I am explaining the reality of the situation, she replied coolly. You can walk away with 30% and your precious memories intact, or we can drag this out and see what happens. As we returned to the table, I noticed Tyler watching us with confusion. He had been too young to fully understand the family dynamics protected by distance and our parents' desire to shield at least one child from the tension. Bennett cleared his throat, as everyone settled. Now we come to the distribution of the major assets, he announced. Before I proceed, I have been instructed to read a personal letter from James and Eleanor that explains their decisions. This was unexpected. Amanda straightened in her chair, that same confident smile playing on her lips. Bennett unfolded a document and began to read. To our beloved children, if this letter is being read, then we have left you too soon, and for that we are deeply sorry. The decisions we have made regarding our estate are not arrived at lightly, but with careful thought and much discussion between us. We have always believed that family is the greatest blessing in life, but we also believe in responsibility, contribution, and fairness. Throughout our lives, we have observed each of you making choices, some that brought us pride, others that caused us concern. We have kept detailed records of financial support provided to each of you, involvement in family matters, and contributions to the family business. It would be easier, perhaps, to divide everything equally. But fair is not always equal, and equal is not always fair. We have made our decisions based on both past contributions and future responsibilities. I felt a chill run through me as Bennett paused to turn the page. Across the table, Amanda's expression had frozen, the confident smile now looking more like a grimace. Amanda Bennett continued reading, Throughout your life, you have received significant financial support totaling over $280,000 for education, business ventures, and various personal emergencies. While we have never regretted helping you, this support was given with love, but recognized as an advance on your inheritance. We have also noted with sadness your limited availability during our health challenges in recent years. Cedric, you have devoted considerable time to the family business, often at personal sacrifice. You have provided unpaid care during our illnesses, managed our affairs, and shown exceptional stewardship of the business that has been our life's work. Your contributions have far exceeded any financial support you have received. Tyler, while distance has kept you from providing direct assistance, you have been financially independent and have maintained regular, meaningful connection despite the miles between us. Bennett paused again, allowing the words to settle in the suddenly silent room. Amanda's face had drained of color, her knuckles white as she gripped the edge of the table. Therefore, Bennett continued, "We have decided on the following distribution. The family home shall be sold with proceeds divided as follows: 50% to Cedric, 30% to Tyler, 20% to Amanda. The lake cabin shall be held in trust for the shared use of all family members, with Cedric as trustee responsible for its maintenance and scheduling. Our investment and retirement accounts shall be divided 40% to Cedric, 40% to Tyler, and 20% to Amanda. The hardware store business, including all assets, inventory, and real estate, shall be distributed as follows: 70% ownership to Cedric, who has already demonstrated his commitment to its success, 15% to Tyler, and 15% to Amanda." Amanda shot to her feet, her chair skidding backward. "This is outrageous." "They cannot do this," Bennett continued calmly. "Additionally, the 70% share transferred to Cedric comes with the stipulation that he maintain employment for current staff for a minimum of 2 years, and that he consider any reasonable request from siblings for employment in the business, provided they demonstrate appropriate qualifications and commitment." "This is manipulation," Amanda shouted, her carefully constructed grieving daughter persona completely abandoned. "Cedric poisoned them against me. I will contest this. I will fight this all the way. There is one final clause," Bennett interrupted firmly, his voice cutting through her tirade. "Any attempt to contest this will by any beneficiary shall result in their share being reduced to a flat sum of $10,000, with their remaining portion distributed equally among charitable organizations selected by the trustees." The room fell absolutely silent. Amanda's face contorted with rage and disbelief. Greg placed a restraining hand on her arm, which she violently shook off. "Additionally," Bennett continued, "we have documented all family financial dealings and personal communications in a sealed file, to be opened only in the event of a legal challenge to these provisions." Amanda sank back into her chair, stunned. Tyler looked between us, finally beginning to understand the family dynamics he had been shielded from for so long. "This is their final gift to you," Bennett said, gently setting the papers down. "Not just their assets, but their wisdom about consequences, responsibility, and moving forward as a family if you choose to." In that moment, looking at Amanda's defeated expression, I felt no triumph. Only sadness for what our family had become, and a heavy responsibility for what had been entrusted to me. The next hour passed in a blur of paperwork and formalities. Amanda refused to make eye contact with anyone, signing the necessary documents with sharp, angry movements before storming out, with Greg following close behind. Tyler approached me afterward, his face troubled. "Was it always like this? I had no idea it was so bad between you two." "Mom and Dad protected you from a lot," I said, feeling suddenly exhausted. "They protected me too, in their way. I think they always hoped Amanda would mature, would change." "What will you do now?" he asked, gesturing vaguely at the paperwork that had transformed me from the family helper to the primary inheritor. It was a question I had not allowed myself to consider. The hardware store would need attention. Immediately, employees would be looking for reassurance. Vendors would need to be contacted, customers informed. The house would need to be cleared out and prepared for sale. The lake cabin winterized properly. But beyond those immediate tasks stretched a future I had not planned for, a future with resources I had not expected and family complications I had not fully appreciated until now. First, I said slowly, "I need some time to grieve properly. Then I guess I figure out how to honor their legacy without getting lost in it." Over the following weeks, the reality of my parents' absence hit in waves. Sometimes I would be fine for hours, focused on work or arrangements. Then something small would trigger an avalanche of grief, finding Dad's handwritten inventory notes or discovering Mom's gardening gloves still hanging on a hook in the garage. Amanda maintained radio silence, but through mutual acquaintances, I heard rumors of financial troubles more serious than even I had suspected. A tax lien on her house, credit card debt in the 6 figures, her husband's business failing. I threw myself into work at the store, finding comfort in the routine and in the genuine affection the staff had for my parents. Many shared stories I had never heard: how Dad had loaned money to a contractor going through divorce, how Mom had watched an employee's children during a family emergency. 3 weeks after the funeral, I was staying late doing month-end accounting when the bell over the door jingled. Looking up, I was shocked to see Amanda standing there looking less polished than usual, her designer clothes replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. "We need to talk," she said without preamble. I gestured to the chair across from the desk. Dad's desk, though I still thought of it that way. "I am listening." She sat stiffly, her hands twisting in her lap. "I am in trouble, Cedric. Serious trouble. Financial trouble." She nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. "Greg's business is bankrupting. The house is in foreclosure. We have been living on credit cards for months." I waited, saying nothing. "I need a job." She finally said the words, seeming to physically pain her. "The will said you would consider family for employment." Of all the scenarios I had imagined for our next encounter, this had not been one of them. "You want to work here?" "At the boring hardware store." She flinched at hearing her own words echoed back. "I do not have a lot of options right now." "What skills do you bring to the business?" I asked, not unkindly, but directly. Her eyes flashed with momentary anger before she controlled herself. "I have a business degree. I know social media marketing. I am good with people. The same people you have been too good to associate with for the past 15 years. She looked away. "I deserve that." "It is not about deserving, Amanda. It is about capability and commitment. This business supports 15 families besides ours. I cannot risk their livelihoods on a hire based solely on family obligation. So you are saying no." I studied my sister, really looked at her perhaps for the first time in years. Behind the entitlement and manipulation was someone struggling, someone who had never found her place, someone who, despite everything, was still my sister. "I am saying you start at the bottom," I replied. "Part-time cashier learning the business from the ground up like I did. Standard probationary period. No special treatment. If you show aptitude and commitment, we can talk about more responsibility and more hours." Her eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed suspiciously. "Why would you give me even that much after everything?" "Because Mom and Dad never gave up hope that you would find your way. Because beneath all our issues, we are still family. And because I think working an honest job might be exactly what you need right now." She was silent for a long moment, pride warring with desperation on her face. Finally, she nodded. "When do I start Monday?" 8 a.m. "Do not be late." To everyone's surprise, especially mine, Amanda showed up on Monday and Tuesday, and every scheduled day after that. There were adjustments, certainly complaints about the early hours, occasional attitude with customers, resistance to taking direction from staff who had worked there for years. But there were also moments that gave me hope. The day she spent 3 hours helping an elderly woman find exactly the right fixtures for her bathroom renovation. The Saturday she stayed late to complete inventory without being asked. The morning I caught her sharing coffee with Dad's oldest employee, listening intently to stories about the store's early days. 6 months after our parents' death, I made a decision. I called a family meeting at the lake cabin, the first time we had all been there since the funeral. Tyler flew in from Germany. Amanda arrived without Greg, their marriage, another casualty of their financial collapse. "I have been thinking about the future of the business," I began as we sat on the deck overlooking the water, the same view that had brought Dad such peace, and about what Mom and Dad would want for all of us. I outlined my proposal, converting the business to a family trust with myself as primary trustee, but with defined roles for both siblings. Tyler would use his tech background to develop an online presence. Amanda, who had proven surprisingly capable with customer relations, would head a new design consultation service for home renovators. This way the business supports all of us, but with accountability and structure, I explained. We each contribute according to our abilities and receive according to both our contributions and our needs. Like some kind of hardware store communism, Amanda quipped, but without her usual edge. I smiled. Like a family business that actually involves the whole family. Tyler readily agreed, excited about applying his tech skills to his hometown legacy. Amanda was quieter, considering the offer with uncharacteristic thoughtfulness. "Why would you share control after what I did? After how I treated you at the funeral? After years of everything?" she finally asked. "Because holding on to resentment would mean they failed in the most important thing they tried to teach us," I replied. "And I refuse to let that be their legacy." 1 year after the accident, We held a memorial service at the store unveiling a small garden area dedicated to James and Eleanor Miller. The business was thriving. Our online sales had increased revenues by 30%, and Amanda's design service was booked 3 months out. More importantly, something was slowly healing in our family. Tyler visited more frequently. Amanda, living in a modest apartment and working daily in the business, had developed a newfound respect for what our parents had built, and for the brother she had once dismissed. The inheritance had turned out to be far more than money or property. It was the values embedded in how it was distributed, the opportunity for redemption it offered, and the second chance at family it made possible. As I stood by the memorial plaque watching customers and employees share memories of my parents, I realized that the true inheritance was never the business or the assets. It was the lesson that fairness sometimes requires difficult choices, that boundaries can be acts of love, and that it is never too late to rebuild what seems broken beyond repair. In the end, I received exactly what I needed from my parents, not just financial security, but the wisdom to use it in service of something larger than myself. And Amanda received what she needed too, though it looked nothing like what she thought she wanted. Sometimes the most valuable part of an inheritance is not what you can hold in your hands, but what it teaches your heart to hold. Have you ever had to deal with difficult family dynamics around money or inheritance? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And if you know someone struggling with family conflicts, share this video. Sometimes knowing others have walked the same path can be the first step toward healing. Thank you for listening. And remember that even in the hardest family situations, there is always hope for a new beginning.